Hello friends, welcome to Vlogmas Day 3. Today I have a fun little video. We're going to be talking about the purchases that I made over Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday sales. A quick intro caveat, what you call it, here at the beginning. Something that I have been really trying to make sure that I'm thinking through and thinking about and just processing, I guess, is making sure that I'm not just buying, particularly craft supplies, purely for the sake of buying craft supplies, such as fabric, yarn, those sorts of things. So I really tried to go into Black Friday, or I guess you could say sale shopping, really thinking about what I was getting and making sure that I had a plan for it, or that it was something that I would realistically see myself using within, you know, a couple of months. Sorry if you hear crinkling. I have a very exciting package that I haven't opened yet and I really want to open it, but I'm waiting to open it for the video. So I really thought through. I had originally planned to make some significant purchases off of Lovecrafts, Knit Picks, and from Holskarn, and in the end I decided not to do any of those because realistically I have a decent sized yarn stash. It doesn't have everything that I would want to have in it. It doesn't have a lot of sweater quantities, and I'm definitely getting more into doing a lot of garment knitting rather than socks or shawls, but I do have some sweater quantities in my stash with some hand-dyed yarn that I've dyed for myself. I realized that I wanted to make a more intentional effort to work from my stash to reduce it down a little bit before I start going out and buying tons of yarn, and I didn't want to buy a bunch of yarn without specific projects in mind for them, and so I just decided not to go crazy with all the sales, because it is true that this time of year is usually when you can get the best prices on things, and so I usually will wait and save up any sort of craft budget, if you will, and plan for making some significant purchases. But I decided to go relatively small this year and only get a few things in a few different sales. So I have some knitting stuff, I have some fabric, I have a knitting pattern and a sewing pattern. So that was the other thing too, is that I was very intentional about not buying a bunch more sewing patterns because it can get so tempting. But I have a fairly large library of sewing patterns and I haven't sewed all of them yet. So end of story being that I really want to try and be more intentional with my purchases and not just buy loads of things for the sake of buying things. So we have some fun things to talk about. And I'm tired of waiting, so I'm going to open my package. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that I did was I wanted to try and support some smaller businesses rather than just purchasing from larger companies. And so one of the places that I purchased some yarn from online was from Holly of Mystery Mouse Knitting. I'm so excited. So let me open this. I was just waiting and waiting. She had a very significant sale and I was so excited because she'd had a birthday sale earlier, maybe in October I think, and I had recently purchased something from her, so I didn't want to I didn't really have the budget to immediately go turn around and buy some more. I love Holly so much. She always writes these little notes on the sheets, and it just makes me so happy. So here's my little bundle. There's Holly's logo. It's so cute, and it's so special too because this, if I remember correctly, was actually her logo. Arthur Cardigan, the mouse, was inspired by one of her children. It was a drawing or something that they did for her. And I think that's so special that she's incorporated that into her logo. It's just lovely. So I got 2 of her sock sets. These are the Ferdy and Cog sock set from her Redwall collection. It's so beautiful. Ah, I love it. It's a variegated, The colors aren't going to show perfectly accurate because this isn't natural daylight. It's just my overhead lights, but it's perfect. So I was debating and going back and forth. Oh, this dark color actually has almost like a purpley hint to it. That looks so amazing. Oh, I love this so much. So I went back and forth on what yarn I wanted to get from Holly's shop, and I was going between these sock sets and her October colorway mini skein set. I was so tempted. I was so close to getting that. But in the end I decided to go with these because what I'm planning to do is I'm not actually planning to use these for socks. I am planning to use this as a contrast color in a sweater. So my plan is to use either the petite knit festival sweater and do it in a kind of a similar, like a grayish color with this blue as the pops of contrast color, which I think would look so amazing. Or to do the petite knit Friday sweater. It's a Friday tee, but I would do it as a sweater and do the same thing with a kind of darker background and then these blues as a pop of color. I am so ridiculously excited. This is beautiful. It's got speckles all in it. Maybe after Christmas I'll just celebrate by allowing myself to cast on a new sweater. The only thing is that in order to make that sweater I actually have to dye up the background, base color if you will. I believe the festival sweater requires DK weight yarn, so I'd be holding this double, which is why I went ahead and got 2 skeins. And then the Friday tee is fingering weight, so it would just be held single. I was thinking that this mini skein was just black, but it has like this, I don't think you can see, kind of, it has like a purpley hint to it, and that is just so cool. Guys, I've never had a yarn crush before, and this might be a problem. Okay, so this was my main super exciting yarn purchase. And then we did actually go to, I forgot to grab one other thing of yarn, but I showed that in yesterday's video, so you will have already seen it. I went to, my husband and I on Saturday went to our, my local yarn store, which I've mentioned in my podcast, and I've talked about how I have been wanting to go forever, and we finally went, and it was lovely. The store is so beautiful. It's kind of dangerous because it's only like 15 minutes away, and it had so much beautiful yarn in it. I absolutely loved it. So you will have seen I showed a, this is, my train of thoughts just completely went. Barocco vintage sock. I talked about it in my video yesterday. I got the Douglas fir colorway, and then I got this colorway, which is showing up much more of a red. It's actually kind of a, does this show it better? No, you can't see it at all. That's not terribly inaccurate. It's a little pinkier. This is color from my socks. So I got the green for my husband's socks, and I got this color to make myself a pair of socks. Probably, it's going to be after Christmas, but probably one of This Handmade Life, Olivia's patterns. She has some beautiful textured patterns that I think would really shine in a yarn like this where it's just a solid. So I grabbed these two because I'm going to try it out. As I mentioned, I'm so curious to see how these socks will wear. So I'll report back on that later. And then one of the main reasons I wanted to go to the my local yarn store was to get this colorway. This is the West Yorkshire Spinners, and you can see that sparkle. The West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in their Silent Night colorway, which I believe is one of their Christmas colorways this year. And I had thought about getting, you know, one of the more traditional yarn colorways that have more like red or green. But I decided on this one because I love blue. Blue is one of my favorite colors. And also the name is Silent Night. And for whatever reason, I'm not 100% sure, but at some point growing up, whenever I started thinking about something scary or, I don't know, alarming or something that just disturbed me, in my head I would start singing the first verse of Silent Night to myself. And so that's kind of become almost, I guess you could say, a switch song where I'll sing it in my head, and most of the time it helps me shut off the freaking out, scared, whatever part of my brain and go to a new train of thought. And so I thought it was really special that this was called Silent Night, and that I could make some Christmassy socks for myself, and that it would just be really special. Yeah, so I've worked with West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply yarn previously. I have a pair of socks in the Robin colorway and in the Passion Fruit Cooler colorway. And the other really lovely thing is that with my local yarn shop, it's actually pretty much the same price, if not cheaper, than buying it online to get the West Yorkshire Spinners. Going forward, I will probably only buy West Yorkshire Spinners through my local yarn store, which is really lovely. But yeah, so it's just this gorgeous blue sparkly color, and I love it so much. I was a little worried when we went into the store and I didn't find it with the rest of the West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, that it must have sold out or something, but then they had it in a separate area with like the Christmas colorways. And I am a little tempted to go back and get one of the other Christmas colorways because they're lovely, and I really enjoy working with West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. It's just a nice hardy sock yarn. It's 75% wool. This one is 23% nylon and 2% polyester. I think the polyester is just the sparkle, but I'm really looking forward to working with this. So there were those two things of yarn. That was all the yarn that I bought. Was just the gorgeous yarn from Holly, and then those 3 skeins from my local yarn store. And then I got one knitting pattern. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, from Along avec Anna, which is I think it's a French company. It's in the UK, but I think it's technically a French company. Let me pull up my Ravelry really quickly. Let me quickly pull up my Ravelry. If you haven't watched one of my first Vlogmas, I talked about how I am trying to teach myself to properly phrase things. Oh, I completely forgot. I actually got 3 knitting patterns. Silly me. So the first one is Trescale? I have no idea how to pronounce it. Like I said, I think it's French, but it's from Along avec Anna, and they were doing a 35% off sale, I think, for Black Friday, but they were also doing it, they were doing it for what they called Color Friday, which is basically a celebration of small businesses. And I'll put a proper picture in, but it's a very classic, simple, lovely cardigan, and it's kind of cropped, and it's a DK weight, and I just fell in love with it. It's got garter stitch button bands, and it just looks so beautiful. I have discovered that I definitely need more hand knit cardigans in my wardrobe, because with breastfeeding and stuff, it's much easier to have a cardigan than a sweater. And so I really like the look of that one. And then the other 2 patterns that I purchased that I completely forgot about, I got from Bumblebee Acres. I don't know if they're just Bumblebee Acres Farm. One of them is the Cottage Core Throw, which is a crocheted blanket, and I don't know why I'm bothering to show you on my phone, because I'm gonna put a picture up. It's a crocheted blanket that's really good for using up scraps, and I have had it in my favorites for forever, and they were having a sale for 50% off of their patterns, and so I was really happy to get that. And then the other one I got was a Tourist Mara shawl, which is a beautiful half pie shawl. It looks stunning. And I've had it again in my favorites list for quite some time. So those two were kind of a splurge, if you will. Not splurge, a spur of the moment. That's what I was thinking. Because they were very, very, very inexpensive. So those were the knitting patterns that I purchased. And then I got some fabric. So right next to my local yarn shop, there's a little quilt shop. And it's another small independent business. And I wasn't originally planning to go, but we were kind of walking around. There's a few little shops right next to the yarn shop. And so my husband was just like, are you sure you don't want to go to the quilt shop? And I was like, okay, fine. And there were all these lovely ladies in there. There was a little shop dog. And it was just so sweet that I knew I had to buy something. And so this was definitely a completely unplanned purchase, but I saw it and fell in love with it and knew that it was exactly what I wanted to get. So I bought this fabric, which is a quilting cotton. Makes sense, it's from a quilting store. And it's this beautiful, it's like this alphabet fabric with all these different animals on it. And I love it so much. I'm going to make baby Tam a blanket with it. I haven't completely decided how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm so excited. And there's a narwhal, and there's a fox and a bear, and it's just, I love it so, so much. I saw it and I knew, because there was a fabric that I was looking at for quite some time that was kind of a similar vibe. It looked very different, but it was a very similar style in that it had animals with the alphabet on it. And I was looking at it for months and months, and I never ended up purchasing it. And this is a very similar style also. Look at this yak. He's so cute. So I was super, super pleased to be able to get that. Also, apologies for the lighting. It is very yellow, which I don't think there's anything I can do about because overhead lighting. Anyway, and then the last two pieces of fabric that I purchased I got from Joann's Fabrics, and I just went ahead and got some more flannel to make myself a couple more winter dresses, which I can't remember if I talked about in my last podcast episode or not. The first one is this, which is this really beautiful kind of woodland animal print. It's got a squirrel, and a bird, and a deer, and there's a fox. Here's the fox. Got a fox on it. And it's just going to make a lovely, cozy dress. And then the other one that I got, it just combines so many of my loves into one fabric. I love this so much. It's books and tea, and it just looks like a Jane Austen-esque vibes, and I love it so much. And I love the fact that it's actually got like teapots on it, so it means that it is tea. It's got teapots and then little teacups and flowers and books, and it is so rare for me to find something that is obviously tea on fabric. Most of the time it's like coffee, and I'm not a coffee drinker. I love tea though, so I'm so happy to have this. So those are the fabrics I got. And then the last thing that I got was, I bought the pansy dress pattern from Rosary Apparel, which I was planning to get when she first released it, but it just wasn't the right timing, and so she had another sale, and I just had to. I love the look of it. To make it now, I would have to do some pattern hacking and put a button down the front of it, but I love the look of the dress, and I love Janelle's videos. Her channel is amazing. I'll link it down below. She is just so much fun to watch. She lives in Australia, and I love her whole brand, her whole aesthetic. She's lovely. So I went ahead and purchased that pattern. Yeah, so it was a little bit of a haul. There's a lot of stuff here, but I tried to be very intentional and really think through my purchases, and I really tried to support smaller businesses, smaller companies, what you call it. And yeah, just, you know, make my purchases be a blessing to somebody else. So I'm very, very happy with my purchases, and I fully expect to be going back to my local yarn store probably sometime this month, just because it is my birthday month and I will probably go back and get myself a little bit of a birthday treat, but we'll see. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you have any lovely, I guess you could say, if you had any lovely crafty purchases that you made that you're very excited about, I'd love to hear it. But for now, I'm going to bid you adieu. I believe the baby is crying, so I'm going to go and take care of him, and I will see you tomorrow.